Mario is the poster child of Nintendo, and his games are everywhere. There are many things that the Mario games are hiding, like glitches, secret areas, and Goombas you've never seen. These are 111 things you didn't know existed in Mario. One of the first ever enemies that you see in Mario games is the iconic Goombas, who are easily crushed. When Mario went 3D in Super Mario 64, Goombas became much more active, chasing Mario whenever he got close. But the most interesting Goomba in the game is one you can't even touch. It is known as the Mystery Goomba, and it's hidden in the very last level in the game, Bowser in the Sky. This Goomba is famous because it is hidden away behind a wall where it is impossible to reach using normal gameplay. The reason it exists comes down to a technical quirk. In Super Mario 64, Goombas usually spawn in groups of 3. The platform at the end of this specific level is too small to fit a full group, so the game forced the third Goomba to spawn in the void behind the level's geometry, so a player will never see this Goomba, at least by normal means. In Japan, the Goombas are known by a different name. They are known as Kuribo. Here, Kuri actually means chestnut, even though the developers have admitted they were specifically designed to look like shiitake mushrooms. Luigi was originally colored green due to technical issues during the development of the original Mario Bros. Arcade game. The developers wanted to add a second player, but the system had very limited memory for colors, so they did not create a whole new palette for a second character and reused colors already used by other objects in the game. They looked at the enemies, specifically the green shells of the turtles, and applied that same green to Luigi's clothes. This allowed them to fit a second hero into the game without using any extra memory, which is why Luigi has been the Green Brother for over 40 years, all because of the lack of memory. Be a brother to us and jump on that like and subscribe button. Well, don't do it literally, because it will break your device. These limitations led to many changes in the Mario games. For example, in the original Super Mario Bros. On the NES, the clouds in the sky and the bushes on the ground are actually the same shape. The developers simply colored the clouds white and the bushes green. By reusing the same artwork for two different things, they were able to fit much more into the game's tiny memory than the hardware should have normally allowed. Super Mario Bros. Also had a world that you cannot gain access to. It is known as the Minus World. The Minus World is an impassable glitch level that players can reach through a specific trick in the World 1-2 warp zone. Once you're in World 1, you're essentially trapped in a never-ending loop. It's an underwater level that looks exactly like World 7-2, but because the game doesn't know where to send you at the end, the pipe at the finish line just resets you back to the start. The only way to leave is to get a game over or reset the console entirely. Although fans call it World 1, the stage is just World 36-1 internally, and the 36 appears as a blank tile on the HUD. Many direct emulations preserve this behavior, but remakes such as Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario Bros. Deluxe have changed or been removed. The dinosaur has a name. According to a 1993 Nintendo character guide, his full name is actually T. Yoshisaur Munchakoopas. Super Mario 64 has a secret even weirder than the Mystery Goomba. On this level, Tiny Huge Island, there is a famous impossible coin hidden inside a wall. For 18 years, players could see it with camera hacks, but couldn't touch it. It was eventually collected in 2014 by using a series of frame-perfect glitches. However, an even more impossible coin was found later. This one is placed underground, and the game has a failsafe that automatically deletes any coin that touches the floor. In the very first mission of Super Mario 64, Mario climbs a mountain to fight King Bob-omb. As you walk up the path, you'll see two large black balls at the bottom of the hill acting as obstacles. This seems normal at first, but a very strange change happens once you defeat King Bob-omb and return for the next star. Suddenly, there are 3 of those rolling balls instead of just the original 2. Many players have developed a dark theory about what those objects really are. The rolling balls are the same shape and size as King Bob-omb himself, and the fact that a third one only appears after he is defeated has led some people to believe they are the dead bodies of the previous bosses. It's a creepy detail that most players will never notice, and to this day, there is no official explanation for that. This makes it one of the most unsettling mysteries in the game. The Super FX chip, which was built into certain SNES cartridges, was powerful enough that Nintendo had already started experimenting with 3D during the 16-bit era. This was part of a larger plan to gear up for a wave of 3D titles, including an early version of a 3D Mario game that eventually became Super Mario 64. Many of the core concepts behind Super Mario 64 were first imagined and developed while the SNES was still the primary console. Interestingly, the only real reason the project moved to the Nintendo 64 was due to the controller of the SNES not having an analog stick. In the end credits of Mario 64, you can do interesting things with a second controller plugged in. While the credits are rolling, you can use the second controller to adjust the camera angles and change your perspective on the scene. It gives you control over the end credits and allows you to focus on specific characters and areas. Even though you're not given full free roam movement, it is an interesting way to get a closer look at the Mushroom Kingdom. An interesting moment in Mario 64 happens in the snowy level, where Mario has to find a lost baby penguin. To earn a Power Star, you have to carry the baby from the very top of the mountain all the way down to its mother at the bottom. After that's done, if you try to pick the baby up again after you've already returned it, the mother will start to chase Mario around. Boo's unsettling laugh in Super Mario 64 is one of the most recognizable noises in the game. It may seem like it is unique, but in reality, it is Bowser's raw sound, but modified. By speeding up Bowser's growl, the developers created a high-pitched crackle. This kind of audio shortcut allowed the team to create a completely different atmosphere for the haunted levels without needing to store extra sound files on the limited memory of the cartridge. Mario 64 has a glitch known as the double hat glitch. This occurs when Mario picks up two hats in very rapid succession. The game isn't sure how to handle having two of the same item at once. Its programmed solution is to have Mario wear one hat while holding the second one in his right hand. You can easily see this for yourself in the Snowman's Land level. If you let the giant snowman blow the hat off Mario's head and then immediately take the warp located under the tree, the game will duplicate the hat. Once there are two hats on the ground, picking them both up quickly will activate the hat hold, leaving Mario running through the stage with a spare hat clutched in his hand. Hidden deep within the data of Super Mario 64 is a secret that hints at a very different version of the game. Developers found an unused animated texture for a Yoshi egg buried in the code, which suggests that Yoshi was meant to be far more than just a quick cameo on the castle roof at the very end. It is very likely that the team was experimenting with making Yoshi a rideable companion, essentially acting as a tool for Mario to navigate the 3D world. While this feature was eventually scrapped, the existence of that egg in the files proves that the bond between Mario and his dinosaur was almost a central part of his first 3D adventure. Just like Yoshi, even Mario's brother Luigi was supposed to make it into the games. Luigi was absent from the final version of Super Mario 64, but Nintendo did experiment with a version featuring both Mario and Luigi. In 1996, Miyamoto described an early model with Mario and Luigi moving around a test room, and later said the team had tried a multiplayer experiment in the 3D world of Mario 64 before abandoning it. The idea appears to have been dropped because it did not come together satisfactorily. In the level Tiny Huge Island, the way you enter the stage completely changes your experience. Depending on which painting you jump into, Mario either starts as a giant in a miniature world or a tiny hero in a land of giants. If you choose the painting that makes Mario a giant, you'll find a tiny Goomba and a group of 3 pinkish butterflies waiting right at the entrance. While these butterflies look like harmless background details, they hide a secret. If you manage to punch one, it will transform into something else. Some of the butterflies will turn into a valuable 1-up mushroom, but others will transform into a homing bomb that immediately starts chasing Mario. If you decide to go back and beat Bowser one more time after collecting all 120 stars, you'll find that the ending to Bowser in the Sky has changed slightly. Usually, Bowser gives a standard speech about being defeated, but after you've completed everything, his reaction becomes a bit more dramatic. The usual line that you'd get is changed, and you get a different line this time. Bowser begins to complain about how worthless his troops are. He even laments his own failure at stopping you. You usually don't think of Mario as the type of guy to go around punching through walls. That's Link's job over in The Legend of Zelda. But Whomp's Fortress contains a rare exception to that rule. Once you've taken down the Whomp King and the new tower rises at the top of the level, head to its base. There is a specific brick in the wall that doesn't look any different from the others. Yet if you give it a solid punch, it shatters. Hidden inside that tiny wall is a secret 1-up mushroom. Most players know that if you're brave enough to collect all 120 power stars, a cannon opened up in the courtyard to shoot you onto the castle roof to meet Yoshi. But you don't really need 100% completion to reach the top. If you head to the right side of the castle, you'll find a steep hill right alongside the outer wall. By landing a perfectly timed triple jump, you can get Mario most of the way up that slope. The trick is to jump again right as he starts to slide, which allows him to reach out and grab the ledge of the castle wall. However, this shortcut is incredibly dangerous. You have to make sure you grab the correct section of the wall. Cool Mountain is full of small, charming interactions with the penguins. While most people are focused on getting the Power Star, you can take a break and have some fun with the baby penguin. If Mario performs one of his signature belly flops right next to the little guy, the penguin will try to copy him. It performs its own, much more adorable version of the slide right alongside you. The large penguin waiting in the lodge is usually known for challenging you to a high-speed race down the slide of a Power Star. Winning the race without using shortcuts is already a tough task, but the challenge changes significantly if you return to face him after collecting all 120 stars. The penguin is still waiting for you, but he's now twice as wide as he was at the start of the game. He admits that he has let himself go and hasn't been practicing his racing lately. While he might be out of shape, his new size makes him much more dangerous. Now, he takes up so much of the slide that he can easily muscle Mario right off the course, even if you slightly brush against him. In Whomp's Fortress, there is a Power Star that sits inside a cage high in the air, seemingly out of reach since Mario can't fly on his own in this stage. To get it, you have to find a hidden helper, an owl named Hoot. Climb a specific tree near the start of the level. You'll wake him up, and he'll offer to give you a lift. Hanging onto the owl's claws allows you to glide through the sky and steer yourself directly over the cage. Hoot isn't exactly a tireless worker. If you decide to treat him like a permanent taxi service and stay in the air for too long, he'll get annoyed. He will eventually tell Mario to lay off the pasta, before immediately letting go and dropping you, regardless of whether you're over solid ground or a bottomless pit. The owl is quite cranky about the whole situation from the start. When you first wake him up, by climbing his tree, he complains about being disturbed during the day, making it clear that he's only helping you so he can go back to his nap. In the level Wet Dry World, the environment reacts to how you enter it. Unlike other stages where the water level is fixed, the water height here is determined by how high Mario is when he touches the painting in the castle gallery. If you perform a high jump into the top of the painting, the level will be flooded when you arrive. If you enter at the very bottom, the water will be at its lowest point. For over 2 decades, the biggest mystery in the game was a blurry plaque on a fountain in the castle courtyard. Fans spent years squinting at the pixel, convinced it said L is real 2401, which fueled the legendary urban legend that Luigi was hidden somewhere in the game. While it was dismissed as a myth for years, a massive leak of Nintendo's internal files in 2020, often called the Giga Leak, finally revealed the truth. The leaked data contained a complete functional 3D model for Luigi designed specifically for Super Mario 64, proving that the L really was real at some point during development. Even the power-ups in the game have their own unique behaviors. In the castle courtyard, there is a specific 1-up mushroom hidden near the hedges that doesn't behave like any other in the game. While most mushrooms just slide in a straight line or bounce away, this one is programmed to actively avoid Mario. If you get too close, it will turn and move in the opposite direction. One of the most famous characters you meet in the basement of the castle is Meeps, the golden rabbit. His name is a direct nod to the hardware running the game. MIPS stands for Microprocessor Without Interlocked Pipeline Stages, which was the specific architecture of the Nintendo 64 CPU. If you've ever noticed the Lakitu, a flying cameraman who follows you in Mario 64, you usually don't see it in the game. You can see him during certain parts of the game. In the room with the mirrors, you can see the reflection of the Lakitu floating behind Mario, holding the broadcast camera on a fishing pole. If you decide to take a break from the action and leave the controller alone for a while, Mario will eventually get tired. He will first sit down and then fall completely asleep on the ground. If you listen closely while he's napping, you can actually hear him mumbling in his sleep. He talks about Italian food, saying things like zucchini, ravioli, and spaghetti. It's a small, charming touch that gives Mario a bit more personality when he isn't busy saving the princess. While we usually think of Mario as the ultimate hero of the Mushroom Kingdom, his record isn't completely spotless. If you look back to the 1982 arcade classic Donkey Kong Jr., you'll find a total reversal of roles from the original game. In this sequel, Mario actually steps into the role of the primary antagonist. Mario is the one doing the capturing. He keeps Donkey Kong locked away in a cage. He even wields a whip to fend off Donkey Kong's son, Donkey Kong Jr., who is just trying to save his father. It's the only time in the entire franchise where Mario is the clear villain of the story. Most players don't realize that Mario's hat has a use. If a gust of wind or a bird like Klepto steals it, Mario becomes much more vulnerable. While he is hatless, he actually takes 50% more damage from every enemy and hazard in the game. There is a lonely cloud in the level, Tall, Tall Mountain, that has a personality. If you jump onto it, it will blow a huge gust of wind that can knock Mario's hat off his head. It's one of the few enemies in the game that can't be defeated. In the main hall of Peach's castle, the eyes on the paintings will actually follow Mario as he walks by. This was a technical trick the developers used to make the castle feel slightly eerie and alive. The eye textures are programmed to always face the player's camera coordinates, ensuring that no matter where you stand, the eyes are always on you. Super Mario Galaxy 2's Shiverburn Galaxy has a weird, unsettling image. In the area, if you look up at the jagged cliffs that surround the valley, you will spot 3 tall, thin silhouettes standing perfectly still. These figures have large, hollowed white eyes that never seem to look away from Mario, even though no NPCs ever mention them. They have absolutely no impact on gameplay. If you dig into the game's internal files, the name of these entities is labeled as Hell Valley Skytree. This is a strikingly dark name for a Mario title, and it suggests that the Shiverburn level might have actually been called Hell Valley during its early development stages. Even though the file calls them trees, the figures look much more like humanoid ghosts. Some fans try to link these beings to Kodama, but that theory doesn't quite hold up, given that Shiverburn is a wasteland of lava and glaciers. Technically, these entities are actually part of the skybox texture. They exist completely outside the playable map, where Mario can't even reach them. They are even programmed to follow the camera's movement, ensuring those hollowed eyes are always staring directly at the player. Super Mario Galaxy hides Rosalina's tragic backstory in an optional storybook found in the library. Over the course of several chapters, you learn that Rosalina was once a young girl on Earth who lost her mother. She traveled into space to help a lone Luma find its parent, eventually becoming the mother to all Lumas to cope with her own grief. Mario has also been used for educational content. Mario Teaches Typing was a licensed edutainment title provided by Interplay Productions, first hitting MS-DOS in 1992. A few years later, in 1994, it made the jump to CD-ROM for Windows and Mac. As the name suggests, the game was built to help users improve their typing speed and accuracy. Fans of the SNES era would have found the experience very familiar, as all the game's music was actually sampled directly from Super Mario World. The game proved successful enough to even spawn a sequel, Mario Teaches Typing 2, in 1996. The real historical significance of this game lies in its voice acting. The MS-DOS versions holds the title of being the very first Mario game where the character actually speaks. Interestingly, he wasn't voiced by the person you'd expect. In that initial version, Mario was voiced by Ronald B. Rubin. Charles Martinet, the official voice of Mario, only arrived here in the game in the 1994 CD-ROM release. Super Mario Bros. 2 is considered to be the black sheep in the older games, as it is quite different compared to the other games. The reason why it feels like it is not a Mario game at all is because it is actually just a complete reskin of a Japanese title called Yume Kojo, Doki Doki Panic. Nintendo of America felt that the true Japanese sequel to the original Super Mario Bros. Was far too difficult for Western audiences, so they took Doki Doki Panic, which featured 4 different characters traversing a dream world, and swapped them out for Mario, Luigi, Toad, and Peach. Across the various RPG spin-offs like Paper Mario and Luigi, we get a much deeper look at the Kingdom of the Koopas. It is a recurring gag that Bowser is actually a huge fan of theatrical arts and diary writing. In Paper Mario, you can find his secret diary where he writes about his crush on Peach and his frustration that his minions don't appreciate his softer side. This lore was carried into Super Mario Odyssey with Bowser's elaborate wedding planning. Moving into more recent titles, Super Mario 3D World features some clever mechanics that reward players who pay attention to the game's rhythm and hidden controls. Throughout the world map, you find various slot machine houses. To most players, these feel like a game of pure luck, where you're just hoping the symbols line up. However, there is actually a reliable system to win every single time. If you time your jumps and hit the boxes to the beat of the background music, you are guaranteed to line up all 4 items. In Super Mario Odyssey, if you leave Mario standing still for a while, he'll eventually settle down for a nap. As he snoozes, a small bird would occasionally fly down and land right on his nose. The bird's form and color change depending on which kingdom you're currently visiting. Mario definitely loves comfort, because he won't fall asleep in certain harsh environments unless you've dressed him in the appropriate attire. For instance, he's not going to nap in the freezing snow without a coat. If you want him to catch some Z's quickly, you can head back to the Odyssey and hop on the couch. He'll fall asleep almost instantly in the safety of his ship, though you won't get a visit from any local birds while indoors. If you jump and bounce on the Odyssey's globe, it will spin, but it will also trigger a delicate music box-style rendition of the Cascade Falls theme. Once you've completed the main mission in New Donk City and restored the festival, bouncing on the same globe will switch the tune to a music box version of Jump Up Superstar. New Donk City is a love letter to the Donkey Kong games. Well, it's pretty clear from the name itself. The street names are the most obvious. You've got Dixie Street, Tiny Street, and Cranky Avenue, names all coming from the Donkey Kong games. The local businesses follow suit, with stores like Diddy's Mart and shops named after Rambi the Rhino or Espresso the Ostrich, tucked into the ground floors of the skyscrapers. But the coolest detail is hidden right on the bumper of every vehicle in town. If you stop to check the license plates on the taxis and parked cars, you'll see the year 1981 prominently displayed. This is a direct reference to the original release of the Donkey Kong arcade game. Il Piantissimo is definitely one of the strangest characters in Super Mario Sunshine. He claims to be a local Pianta, but it's pretty clear he's just a man in a tank top with a mask strapped to his head. However, if you look at the game's internal code, his secret identity is finally revealed. Beneath the mask, his character model is identical to the Running Man, also known as the Postman from Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. There were humans planned for Super Mario Sunshine. If you dig up the old Space World 2001 preview footage, you'll spot humans. These characters looked like ordinary people you'd see in the real-world street. They were not Piantas. Since this was such an early look at the game, their presence remains a total mystery. Most fans guess they were just temporary stand-ins for Piantas. Super Mario Sunshine is actually a huge tribute to the console it came out on, the GameCube. Before it was officially called the GameCube, Nintendo's purple console was known by its internal codename, Project Dolphin. The developers hid references to this name all over the game. The most obvious one is the map itself. Isle Delfino is literally shaped like a dolphin, and the word Delfino is actually Italian for dolphin. But the nods don't stop at the shoreline. As you explore the island, you'll find dolphin statues and symbols scattered throughout the main plaza. There's even a Hotel Delfino, and if you're observant while exploring Noki Bay, you can spot a hidden patch of graffiti perfectly shaped like a dolphin. Talking about references, there are more references in Super Mario Sunshine. The moment Mario first interacts with FLUDD, the game gives a subtle nod to the plumber's long history. If you watch the bottom of the screen while the device is booting up and scanning Mario, you can see a series of quick data snapshots from his past adventures. More references like Luigi's Mansion is also referenced in the game. In the Hotel Delfino stage, if you manage to claw your way into the ventilation shafts, you'll find a janitor who is clearly having a rough shift. He complains about the paranormal infestation, saying, "All these ghosts are causing so much trouble. They're everywhere. Why can't someone come along and suck him up with a vacuum?" Just like the impossible coin in Super Mario 64, there is a hidden impossible book in Sunshine. Once you've unlocked Episode 3, Red Coins in a Bottle, you can dive all the way to the seafloor inside the bottle. There, you'll find a stone block featuring 2 small holes. While the left hole is unremarkable, the right one leads to a door that simply won't open. However, if you use a bit of camera trickery to glitch your view past the geometry, you'll discover a bizarre secret: a fully modeled book sitting in the darkness. Some believe it's a remnant of a scavenger hunt mission that was exclusive to early Japanese builds or scrapped during development. Others point to the game's official soundtrack. The music that plays during this mission is actually titled The Book in the Bottle. In the original Super Mario world, whenever Yoshi sticks out his tongue, it looks like Mario is just pointing the way. However, if you look at the official concept art and early animations, Mario is actually punching Yoshi on the head to trigger his tongue reflex. Nintendo later retconned this because it was a bit too mean for Mario's image, changing the animation so that Mario is simply saying, "Go." But if you watch the original SNES sprites closely, you can still see the little bop that started it all. In Super Mario World, the Wiggler is one of the few enemies with a multi-state. Usually, enemies in early Mario games either move in a pattern or chase you, but the Wiggler has a temper. When you jump on its head, its sprite turns red, its speed increases, and its movement patterns become erratic. This was a massive technical leap at the time, giving a simple 2D enemy a personality. Is the mushroom on Toad's head a hat or part of his actual body? It is a question that fans have asked for decades. The confusion started because of the 1980 Super Mario Bros. Super Show cartoon, which showed Toad removing the mushroom like a cap. However, in 2018, Super Mario Odyssey producer Yoshiaki Koizumi finally set the record straight. It's not a hat, it's his head. While many enemies in the original Super Mario Bros. Follow a simple, predictable path, the Hammer Bros have interesting behavior. They are arguably the most feared enemies in the game. Their AI is specifically designed to be aggressive. The hammer throws are timed perfectly to intercept your movement and screw you over. If you try to play it safe by waiting for an opening, the game actually punishes your patience. If you stall for too long, specifically around 45 seconds, the Hammer Bro will break his usual back and forth pattern and charge directly at you for the kill. In Super Mario 64 DS, if you pay attention to the title screen, it normally cycles back and forth between a hand-drawn sketch of Mario and one of Yoshi. Most players just press start and jump into the game, but there is a hidden layer for those who wait. If you let the screen alternate between Mario and Yoshi 3 times, a hidden drawing of Luigi will finally pop up. It seems like a way for the developers to acknowledge that after decades of L is real rumors, the younger Mario brother finally made it into the castle for the remake. In the original game, there was only one rabbit to catch, Meeps. In the DS version, there are dozens of them, and they are color-coded to each character. Each character has their own set of rabbits to hunt down, and catching them unlocks specific minigames in the Rec Room. One of the biggest secrets in the series happens after you beat the special world, the Star Road sequel levels in Super Mario World. Once completed, the entire game world undergoes a massive palette shift. The lush green fields turn into a permanent autumn orange, and the iconic Koopa Troopers are replaced by strange Mario masked versions of themselves. Mario Kart 64 has a permanent reward for masters. If you get a gold trophy in every cup across all engine classes, the title screen changes forever. The original image of the main cast is replaced with a more dynamic scene featuring Donkey Kong, and the classic theme song is replaced with a new, more intense musical arrangement. The new Super Mario Bros. For the DS has a secret challenge mode. By pausing the game while on the world map and entering the code LRLRXXYY, you'll trigger a secret setting that locks the camera. Just like in the original 1985 classic, the screen will no longer scroll backwards as you move. Did you know that one of the most iconic boss battles in Super Mario Galaxy actually has its roots in Hyrule? The fight against Megaleg in the Stardust Galaxy is legendary because of its sheer scale. This massive mechanical beast is an entire level you have to climb and navigate while it stomps through the arena. However, this boss as a level concept was actually intended for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. During the development of the N64 masterpiece, Nintendo envisioned a showdown with Ganon where he was so colossally large that he served as both the villain and the battlefield. The hardware at the time couldn't quite handle the processing power needed for a living, moving arena of that size, so the idea was shelved. It took nearly a decade and the power of the Wii for that scrapped Zelda fight to finally see the light of day in Super Mario Galaxy. In Super Mario RPG, if you stop by the inn in Rose Town, you'll find a very familiar guest in green catching some Z's in one of the beds. While you can't actually wake him up, interacting with the sleeping Link triggers that legendary high-pitched Zelda secret jingle. If you visit the Mushroom Kingdom Castle guest room later in the game, you'll find Samus Aran from the Metroid series sleeping in one of the beds. If you try to talk to her, she simply says, "I'm resting for Mother Brain." For a series that's usually about sunshine and rainbows, Super Mario 3D Land hides a genuinely creepy detail that feels like a glitch, but is not a glitch. In World 4-4, if you stand at the very end of the level by the flagpole and wait, a ghostly pale figure will slowly fade into view behind the fence in the background. It stares at the player for a moment, then disappears as the screen fades to black. One of the weirdest accidental secrets in Nintendo history is hidden right on the box art of Super Mario Galaxy. For years, fans noticed that certain letters on the game's logo had little sparkles on them. If you pull out only the letters with sparkles, they spell out, "You are Mr. K." While many thought this was a hidden prank by a rogue designer, it's likely just a total coincidence of the graphic design. Even though Super Mario Bros. Changed gaming forever, its exact US release date remains one of the industry's biggest mysteries. Depending on which historian you ask, the game could have hit shelves in October of 1985, November of 1985, or even as late as March of 1986. The confusion comes down to how Nintendo handled the launch of the NES. Instead of one big nationwide release, they started with a small test market in New York City. Because Nintendo was a much smaller company back then, and record-keeping was surprisingly spotty, no one can pinpoint the exact day Mario officially landed on American soil. It's a strange thought. The game that saved the entire industry doesn't even have a confirmed anniversary. The first ever Super Mario game that was playable on a PC was Super Mario Bros. Special. Released all the way back in 1986, it was more like an officially licensed sequel developed by Hudson Soft for Japanese computers like the Sharp X1 and NEC PC 8801, rather than a normal PC port. It was designed for hardware that couldn't handle smooth scrolling as well as the NES. The game moved screen by screen, almost like the original Legend of Zelda. But to make up for the technical limitations, Hudson added unique items that never appeared in the console versions, including the hammer, ripped straight from the original Donkey Kong. This allowed Mario to swing his way through enemies for a brief period. The wing essentially let Mario swim through the air for about 10 seconds. It was actually the first time Mario was able to fly in a platformer, predating the raccoon tail and the cape by years. The Lucky Star is a rare item that acted like a portable power block, clearing every enemy off the screen the moment you touched it. The Hudson Bee is a massive cameo of the Hudson Soft mascot. Finding it didn't give you a power-up, but it did grant a massive 8,000 point bonus. Super Mario Strikers was the one time Nintendo really tried to give the plumber some attitude. The game's art style was gritty, messy, and aggressive, and the marketing team originally wanted to lean into that edge even harder. During the promotional phase, a concept for a poster was designed that pushed the boundaries of Nintendo's clean image. It featured a crude illustration of two soccer balls sitting in the back of a net with the bold caption, "You're going to need a pair." It was a blatant double-meaning joke, which quickly led to the promotion's cancellation. Mario has officially stepped onto the world stage for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Though he's been competing against Sonic the Hedgehog in the Olympic Games series since 2007, the Tokyo 2020 installment was a homecoming for the character. To celebrate the game's return to Japan, Nintendo included a massive retro mode that allowed players to compete in retro-style 2D events themed around the 1964 Tokyo games. The connection started 4 years earlier. During the closing ceremony of the Rio 2016 Olympics, a teaser for Tokyo 2020 featured a cinematic where Mario dives into a green warp pipe in Tokyo and pops out in the middle of the stadium in Rio. In one of the most famous PR stunts in history, Japan's then Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, emerged from a giant pipe in the center of the field, wearing Mario's iconic hat. Luigi's Mansion contains a scene so unsettling that it had fueled one of the most famous and darkest urban legends in gaming history. It all unfolds in the telephone room during the blackout that occurs right after you defeat the third area boss. Despite the power being completely cut out across the entire mansion, a lone phone begins to ring. When Luigi picks up to talk to a panicked Toad, a well-timed flash of lightning illuminates the room, and for a split second, something horrific appears on the back wall. The shadow cast by the lightning doesn't match Luigi's pose at all. The shadow is completely off the ground, with its head tilted as if in a noose and its hands limp at its sides. To many players, it looked like the game was showing a silhouette of Luigi having committed suicide. It's a jarring, macabre image that feels completely out of place in a Nintendo title. When Nintendo brought the game to the 3DS, they seemingly fixed this lighting anomaly. In the remake, the shadow is grounded and matches Luigi's movements perfectly. This suggests that the original was likely a technical oversight. Before the billion-dollar animated Mario movie, there was a live-action Mario movie by Hollywood which was plainly horrible. The 1993 Super Mario Bros. Film is legendary for its bizarre choices. Instead of a magical kingdom, the brothers are sent to a parallel dimension where humans evolved from dinosaurs. It was filmed in an abandoned cement factory to get that grimy look. The production was so chaotic that the script was rewritten constantly. One early version was a serious drama inspired by Rain Man. But even before that, there was the Japanese animated movie. Japan released Super Mario Bros. The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach in 1986. This was the first feature film ever based on a video game. The plot is wonderfully bizarre. Mario and Luigi get sucked into their television while playing a Famicom. The movie ends with Princess Peach revealing she's already engaged to a character named Prince Haru, leaving Mario heartbroken. Interestingly, in this version, Mario and Luigi run a grocery store instead of a plumbing business. Well, if you thought the movie was weird, there was also a Super Mario Bros. TV show, the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, which premiered in late 1989 and was produced by DIC Animation. It was a bizarre but ambitious experiment. It followed a unique hybrid format. Each episode was bookended by live-action segments set in a Brooklyn basement, starring professional wrestler Captain Lou Albano as Mario and Danny Wells as Luigi. These live-action bits were essentially a sitcom, complete with celebrity guest stars ranging from Cyndi Lauper and Magic Johnson to even Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. Between the live-action sketches was the animated adventure where the brothers would travel to different lands to stop King Koopa. Much like the 1993 movie, the show didn't exactly win over critics. It was famous for its heavy use of pasta-themed puns and its plumber's log. The new chain chomp enemy added in Super Mario 3 was actually inspired by Miyamoto's real-life experience. The design was inspired by a terrifying moment where a neighbor's dog chased a young Miyamoto, only to be yanked back by its chain at the very last second. If you didn't know this, you can break the chain in the game. If you stand there and let the chomp lunge at you 49 times, that metal finally snaps. On the 50th tug, the charm breaks free and hunts you down. You just got to stand near it and wait for it to lunge at you. And there, it will break free. The booze too came from a real-life experience. Co-designer Takashi Tezuka found inspiration in his own home. His wife was famously shy and quiet, but one day, she reached her breaking point. Maddened by the endless hours Tezuka was spending at the office, she finally exploded in a fit of rage. Tezuka took that sudden jarring transition from quiet to violent and pitched it as a gameplay mechanic. It's the reason boos are defined by their social anxiety. When Mario looks at them, they cower and turn translucent, hoping to disappear. But the second he turns his back, that maddened spirit takes over. The inspiration for the Super Mario Galaxy games for the Wii came from a tech demo. The tech demo was shown in the year 2000 and was titled Super Mario 128. Shown at Nintendo Space World, the demo featured 128 tiny individual Marios all running, jumping, and interacting on a curved saucer-like surface. When the public assumed this was a direct teaser for a GameCube sequel, it was a physics experiment. Designer Yoshiaki Koizumi walked away from that demo convinced that spherical gravity, the ability to run around a 360-degree world without falling off, was the next evolution for the platformer. Even though Koizumi was ready to take Mario to the planets during the GameCube era, he hit a massive roadblock: Shigeru Miyamoto. Miyamoto was notoriously skeptical of the idea. He worried that running on a sphere would be disorienting, causing motion sickness and making it impossible for players to judge jumps accurately. It was a rare moment of creative friction at Nintendo. Koizumi refused to let the idea die, spending years developing secret prototypes that solved the camera problem. It was only after he presented a series of high-polished test levels that proved the camera could handle the curves that Miyamoto finally gave the green light. The project was moved from the GameCube to the Wii, where it would finally have the processing power to bring those planets to life. The Boy Base Galaxy is a reference to Pokemon. While the game is full of spherical planets, this specific planetoid feels like a love letter to Pokemon fans. The physical design is unmistakable. The top is housing 2 red panels, the bottom is distinctively lighter shade, and that central screw is positioned exactly where the release button would be on a Pokeball. Even the Prima Games official guide acknowledged the connection, explicitly telling players, wait a second, Mario's on a Pokeball. In the original Super Mario Galaxy, Good Egg Galaxy features a small planet that serves as Yoshi's house. When you approach the front door, a read prompt appears, matching the interaction used for signs throughout the game. This exists because of a clever shortcut taken during development. If you clip the camera through the door frame, a standard wooden sign stands hidden inside the wall. The programmers placed the sign here to trigger the message without writing unique code for door interactions. Throwback Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy 2 acts as a recreation of Whomp's Fortress from Super Mario 64. The layout mirrors the 1996 original, though the textures and lighting match the Wii's hardware. You bypass the traditional painting entrance and land on the stone platforms via Starship. A Bob-omb buddy waits at the start, telling Mario he looks familiar. This piece of dialogue bridges the gap between the two titles. Twisty Trials Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy 2 contains a direct tribute to the GameCube's Super Mario Sunshine. The mission, Spinning, Spinning, and Spinning, replicates the secret obstacle course found in Rico Harbor. The level introduces Pianta NPCs, the residents of Delfino Isle, standing on the floating platforms. Super Mario Galaxy hides some unsettling bugs that look like they belong in another game. Digging through the files reveals insects that look more at home in a Metroid game than a Mario game. You can find dragonflies and creatures with thick protective shells. They have full animation cycles. It looks like the team had them ready to go before pulling the plug late in the process. What purpose did these things serve in the development of the game? It's something we have no clue about. Sky Station Galaxy in Super Mario Galaxy 2 contains Yoshi's house. During the first mission, a sign in front of the house reads, "Hello friend, please go around the back, Yoshi." If you exit and start the third mission, the message changes. The signature reads, "Yoshi, the Space Dragon." This Easter egg fuels theories for players who study hidden details in Nintendo games. When asked about Yoshi's survival in the vacuum of space, Miyamoto replied that he is a space dinosaur. Is Yoshi a space dinosaur or a dragon? Well, I think we're looking too much into these games, but that is our job. When Super Mario Galaxy launched in 2007, GameStop sent automated voicemails to customers who pre-ordered the game. These messages featured a recording of Charles Martinet as Mario, but the automated system suffered a technical glitch. The recordings told customers the game was rated M for mature. The ESRB reserves that rating for titles containing intense violence and sexual themes. The error likely occurred because the retailer used a message template intended for Call of Duty 4, which released during the same week. The Super Mario Galaxy series features colorful collectibles called Starbits. You use the Wiimotes to point and grab them from the screen, or a second player can join in to help gather them. These shards draw their design from a real-life Japanese candy called konpeito. The connection to this traditional candy explains why the hungry Lumas react so strongly when you feed them. They consume hundreds of these bits to transform and open secret paths through the stars. While the Lumas make them look like a gourmet treat, konpeito is essentially just hardened sugar. Every color tastes identical, offering a plain, crunchy sweetness instead of the varied flavors the visual suggests. Rolling Gizmo Galaxy requires Mario to balance on top of a starball, navigating narrow paths suspended in the sky. Beneath one of these platforms, the developers have a reference to Zelda. A cluster of blue starbits floats in the void, arranged in the precise shape of a rupee. To see it, you must stop the ball and tilt the camera toward the edge of the level. Since the formation sits far below the platform, attempting to reach it on the starball causes Mario to fall into the abyss. You have to use the Wiimote pointer to grab the starbit from a distance. The Super Mushroom remains the most recognizable power-up in gaming. Its design, featuring a red cap with white spots, matches a real-world fungus called Amanita muscaria, or the flying agaric. This mushroom carries a reputation for its potent psychoactive properties. Ingesting the fungus can lead to a condition known as Alice in Wonderland syndrome. This distortion of the senses causes a person to perceive their body as much larger or smaller than it actually is. Shigeru Miyamoto confirmed that these mind-altering effects directly influence the game's mechanics. The idea of Mario doubling in size upon touching a mushroom stems from this specific mushroom. The last Mario game, Super Mario Odyssey, made a history in the franchise. It holds a unique distinction in the franchise's history. It is the first mainline entry to receive a B rating from Japan's Zero board. Every previous title earned an A rating, indicating a universal audience. A B rating suggests that the content is best suited for players ages 12 and under, as it can include mild depictions of violence, horror elements, or suggestive themes. This shift occurred in North America as well. The ESRB rating assigned the game an E10+ rating, moving away from the standard E for everyone rating the series had held for decades, making history. The retail packaging for Super Mario Odyssey underwent a silent revision months before the game reached shelves. Early promotional images of the box art displayed a small window in the bottom left corner featuring Mario in a sombrero and poncho, reflecting his outfit in the Sand Kingdom. By the time the game launched, Nintendo replaced this image with a shot of Mario swimming in a snorkel mask. This change followed a wave of online discussion regarding the use of traditional Mexican attire. While the Mexican Mario design drew criticism from some who viewed it as caricature, many fans in Mexico praised the inclusion as a tribute to their culture. Nintendo never issued a public statement regarding the swap, choosing to adjust the marketing materials without comment. The outfit itself remains fully accessible in the final game, allowing players to purchase and wear the clothing as originally intended. The game tracks every movement through an internal jump counter. You can find your lifetime total in the data management menu. The number increases even when Mario remains stationary. Every time you press the button to speak to an NPC, the game adds to your jump count. The software registers the input as a jump regardless of the context. Players who focus on dialogue will find their statistics reflect thousands of jumps that never happened. In October 2018, Nintendo held a limited event to celebrate the first anniversary of Super Mario Odyssey. During this one-week window, the festival area in New Donk City contained hidden pixel art sprites. If you performed a ground pound on specific floor tiles in the plaza, 8-bit versions of Captain Toad and Luigi will pop out of the ground. These sprites provided a small coin reward to anyone who found them. Unlike most secrets in Mario games, these were tied to the game's internal clock and server. Once the anniversary week ended, the sprites disappeared from the city. Unless you played during that specific 7-day period in 2018, you missed the only time Luigi officially appeared in the New Donk City Festival. The evolution of these names is one of the most famous examples of how translation can reshape a character's identity for a global audience. While North American players spent the 80s and early 90s rescuing Princess Toadstool, she was always Princess Peach. The story behind the King of the Koopas follows a similar path. In Japan, the main antagonist is simply known as Koopa. When the game was brought to the West, the localization team decided he needed a more menacing individual name, leading to the creation of Bowser. Players discovered how to bypass the first Power Moon in the Cascade Kingdom. By performing a precise series of jumps and cappy throws near the waterfall, you can slip through an invisible barrier and reach the Madame Brood boss fight early. In version 1.00 of the game, defeating the boss without the first moon allows you to progress, but in later updates, Nintendo patched the boss trigger. If you perform this glitch on current versions, the boss simply never spawns, leaving Mario in an empty area. In the Luncheon Kingdom, a hidden warp painting transports Mario to a remote island in the Mushroom Kingdom. This isolated spot recreates Yoshi's house from the 1990 SNES title, Super Mario World. The area includes the fireplace and the specific tree arrangement found in the 16-bit original. In the SNES game, this location served as the starting point where players first encountered Yoshi's home and a message explaining his disappearance. The Odyssey version translates these flat sprites into a 3D space, placing the assets in the exact positions they occupied decades ago. While the island feels empty at first glance, the layouts serve as a one-to-one map of the very first level of Mario's Dinosaur Land adventure. The main theme of Super Mario Odyssey, Jump Up Superstar, is a tribute to Pauline and Mario's shared history in the arcade era. During the song's instrumental bridge, the brass section performs a specific melody. This riff is a rearranged version of the 25M theme from the original 1981 Donkey Kong. Super Mario Bros. 3 contains several complete levels hidden within its code that never appear on the world map. One of these is known as Unused Level 14. This features a unique starry background texture that isn't found anywhere else in the game. This level contains no enemies and no exit pipe, acting as a technical test for a nighttime environment. The existence of these assets shows the developers were exploring more atmospheric level designs that the NES hardware could barely support. The Japanese release of Super Mario World on the SNES allows Yoshi to consume the dolphins found in water-themed levels. In the North American and European versions, the developers altered Yoshi's tongue mechanics to ignore these creatures, transforming them strictly into safe-moving platforms. This change likely occurred due to different regional perspectives on harming marine life. The restriction didn't last forever though. When Nintendo ported the game to the Game Boy Advance as Super Mario World, Super Mario Advance 2, they restored the original behavior for all territories. Players in the US and Europe regained the ability to turn the helpful dolphins into a snack for Yoshi, bringing the international versions back in line with the original Japanese vision. Mario Paint arrived on the SNES in 1992 as a creative toolbox. It came bundled with the SNES mouse and a hard plastic mousepad. For many players, this served as their first introduction to using a mouse on a home console. The software included a paint mode that functioned as a pixel art editor. This tool provided stamps and patterns based on Nintendo characters. It gave players a space to experiment with digital art and user interfaces years before similar tools became standard on home computers. The animation mode allowed for frame-by-frame creation. You could draw individual images and play them back as a looping cartoon. This feature offered a hands-on look at the mechanics of animation without the need for expensive equipment. The music composer remains the most recognized part of the game. The grid used icons like dogs, cats, and Mario heads to represent different sounds. Despite the playful appearance, it functioned as a real sequencer. In recent years, dedicated communities have used it to create complex arrangements and modern pop songs. To demonstrate the precision of the mouse, the developers included a minigame called Gnat Attack. This fast-paced challenge required you to swat flying insects against a timer. It turned the hardware into a controller for arcade-style action. In Super Mario World, finishing every exit adds a single star to your save file to mark your progress. The new Super Mario Bros. Series expanded this system by adding multiple stars for different milestones. On the Nintendo DS, you could earn 3 stars by completing every level and finding every star coin. By the time the series reached the Wii, the requirement grew to 5 stars. There is a hidden distinction in these save files that many players miss. To earn shiny stars, you have to complete the game without ever triggering the Super Guide. This assist feature appears if you die 8 times in a single level. If that green block spawns, the game permanently flags your save file. Even if you finish the game with 5 stars, they will look flat and dull. You lose the sparkling effect that signifies a perfect run. This mechanic carried over into Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World, where the Super Guide block became the invincibility leaf. For dedicated completionists, the appearance of this help item serves as a permanent mark on the file. If you want the prestigious shiny icons, you have to play through the entire game without the software offering you help, or you have to delete the save and start over from the beginning. In Super Mario RPG, Princess Peach's boredom hides something weird. If you check the right side of her fireplace, Mario discovers an object labeled as Toadstools ? In the original SNES release, finding this item triggers an immediate reaction from Peach, who scolds Mario for peeking into her private belongings. In the 2023 remake, the name was updated to Peach's ? to match her current branding. But the mystery of the object remains. The Japanese version of the game provides a different perspective on the name. It lists the item as Peach's XXX, while XXX often carries a mature connotation in Western culture. In Japanese media, it serves as a common placeholder for a redacted or fill-in-the-blank word. The localization team likely swapped XXX for triple ? to avoid any unintended adult implications for English-speaking audiences. If you find the item while Peach is away, her grandmother will offer Mario a mushroom to keep the secret. Once Peach joins the party, the interaction changes to a stern lecture about boundaries. Nintendo has never clarified what the item is, leaving fans to speculate whether it is a piece of clothing, a personal diary, or a simple developer gag. Dr. Mario is a puzzle spin-off game which debuted on both the NES and Game Boy in 1990. This release moved the character away from platforming and into the falling capsule puzzle genre. Developed by Nintendo R&D 1 team, the game features a set of viruses. These viruses have canon names. The red virus represents fever, the blue virus represents chill, and the yellow virus represents weird. These names appear in the original game documentation and tie directly into 2 primary musical themes titled Fever and Chill. Mario Kart 64 was built as a prototype, and it was not meant for Mario originally. When development began on Super Mario Kart for the SNES, the team was simply trying to create a 2-player racing game that could run on the console's Mode 7 hardware. The original prototype featured a generic man in a jumpsuit. When the developers decided to see what Mario looked like in the kart, they realized the characters from the Mushroom Kingdom provided the perfect characters for a fun racing game. In his 1981 debut in Donkey Kong, he was simply known as Jumpman, a functional but forgettable title. Shigeru Miyamoto even considered calling him Mr. Video, with the hope that he could use the character as a recurring cameo across all his future projects. Much like a signature actor, the change to the name Mario happened by pure chance during the early 1980s at Nintendo of America's warehouse in Washington. The team was reportedly behind on rent when their landlord, Mario Segale, burst into the building to demand his payment in front of the staff. After Segale left, the developers began jokingly referring to the character as Mario. It gave the character a distinct heritage that matched his mustache and cap. This transition from Jumpman to Mario also coincided with a shift in his profession. In Donkey Kong, he was originally envisioned as a carpenter because the game took place on a construction site. In the follow-up game in 1983, Mario Bros., the setting moved underground into the pipes of New York City. To match this new environment, the team officially changed his occupation to a plumber. The collaboration between Nintendo and Square for the SNES classic Super Mario RPG began with a vision that looked very different from the final product. During an Iwata Asks interview, producer Kensuke Tanabe revealed that Square's first pitch leaned heavily into the swords and sorcery style they had perfected with the Final Fantasy series. Their initial concept art featured Mario wearing a dramatic cape, riding a horse, and brandishing a sword like a traditional fantasy knight. Shigeru Miyamoto immediately stepped in to redirect the project. He rejected the knight aesthetic, arguing that a sword simply didn't fit Mario's character. He suggested that if Mario were to use a weapon at all, a hammer would be a much more appropriate tool for a former carpenter. Aside from this specific intervention regarding Mario's gear, Miyamoto allowed Square to lead the development for the RPG mechanics. The Nintendo Switch remake of Super Mario RPG expanded on the original's charm by giving Mario even more expressive reactions to the player's actions. One of the most unique secrets is tucked away within the save menu itself. If you approach a save block but cancel the prompt more than 10 times before finally choosing to save, Mario's usual victory pose changes. The game effectively keeps account of how many times you've backed out of the menu. If you finally decide to save after an odd number of cancellations, such as 11 or 13, Mario will look down at the ground with a sad, defeated expression. However, if the final count is an even number, Mario will glare at the screen with an angry, frustrated face. While the game is paused, if you press down, up, right, left, L, R, L, R, B, a message box appears featuring a surprise visit from Toad. He excitedly announces that you have successfully activated the game's secret code. However, the excitement is short-lived. The Toad admits he has no idea what the code does, eventually checking your experience points and stats before concluding that the sequence is entirely useless. He ends the encounter by telling Mario he had a good time hanging out anyway. This interaction is a reference, a piece of lost history from the original 1996 SNES release. In the Japanese version of the game, titled Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, this exact sequence was a functional debug code. Pressing it would pull up a secret status screen that allowed players to check their hidden stats or even access a sound test. When the game was localized for North America in the 90s, the functionality of the code was removed, leaving Western players with no way to access the menu. Hidden behind a sealed door in Monstro Town lies the most unconventional encounter in the entire game. To enter, you must first obtain a shiny stone by trading a set of fireworks in Moleville. Once the door is opened, Mario comes face to face with Culex, a dark knight who feels completely alien to the Mushroom Kingdom. This is because he literally is Culex, a crossover character from the world of Final Fantasy. Unlike the rounded 3D rendered look of the rest of the game, Culex originally appeared as a massive 2D sprite, accompanied by 4 elemental crystals representing earth, fire, water, and wind. During the encounter, he explicitly tells Mario that he does not belong in this world and has come from a different dimension to test his strength. The battle itself is famously difficult, and once defeated, the iconic Final Fantasy victory fanfare plays as a reward for your persistence. In the Nintendo Switch remake, Culex remarks that he has waited a very long time to finally exist in 3 dimensions, calling it a dream that has finally been fulfilled in this modern version of the game. After you conquer his even more powerful rematch form in the post-game, the developers include a special message thanking you for defeating him and for truly completing everything the game has to offer. The credits of the remake are a direct homage to the original 1996 finale. For most of the sequence, the game meticulously recreates the iconic parade that fans remember from the SNES era, matching the movements and timing of every float and character. It's a dedicated preservation of the game's legacy that builds toward a final visual transformation. Just as the credits reach their peak, the aesthetic shifts from the classic parade style back into the full modern 3D engine used throughout the remake. This transition leads into a gorgeous final scene that brings the entire adventure to a close. After Nintendo walked away from its partnership to create a CD-ROM drive for the SNES, Philips was left with a license to develop games using Nintendo's most iconic characters. This resulted in just 4 titles, 3 widely panned Zelda games, and Hotel Mario. Designer Steven Radosh already had a concept for a hotel-themed puzzle game in the works, and when the Nintendo license became available, he simply folded the plumber into his existing idea. Nintendo's involvement was minimal, mostly focused on ensuring the characters looked somewhat like their counterparts in Kyoto. Instead of exploring a vast kingdom, players were confined to 7 different hotels, closing doors on each floor while dodging enemies to reach a showdown with a Koopaling boss. One of the most shocking details from the game's development is that Mario almost lost his defining ability. In the early design stages of the game wasn't even going to allow Mario to jump. According to the report from the team, it was only after a developer's daughter played an early version and pointed out how wrong it felt for Mario to stay grounded that the jumping mechanic was finally added. In Wrecking Queue, Mario and Luigi ditch their plumber hats for construction helmets. They work as demolition engineers. The goal in each of the 100 stages is to use a large mallet to smash every wall and ladder on the screen. The biggest twist is that Mario actually cannot jump in this game. Because you are stuck on the ground, you have to carefully plan which wall to break first. If you accidentally destroy a ladder you need to reach the higher floor, you might get stuck and have to restart the level. While you work, you have to dodge strange enemies like Eggplant Men and a rival named 4-Man Spike, who tries to knock you off the platforms. Do you know about the Virtual Boy? It was a failure of a console by Nintendo, and Mario had a game on the console. Mario Clash stands as one of the most eccentric titles in the plumber's history. Released in 1995 for the ill-fated Virtual Boy, it holds the title of being the first game in the franchise to feature true stereoscopic 3D. Due to the hardware it lived on, the entire world is rendered in shades of black and deep neon red, giving the Mushroom Kingdom a surprisingly eerie, high-tech atmosphere. Nintendo's poster child had a game on the Game & Watch 2. Released in 1983 for the Game & Watch panorama screen line, Mario Bombs Away places Mario in a role you would never see him in today, a soldier on a battlefield. Released for the GameCube in 2005, Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix is another weird game released as a crossover between Nintendo, Konami, and Hudson Soft. It holds the distinction of being the first DDR game released on Nintendo hardware outside of Japan, and it arrived with a dedicated action pad bundled in the box. It features over 25 tracks that are almost entirely high-energy Eurobeat and techno remixes of classic Nintendo themes. You'll find yourself stomping along to a dance version of the Super Mario Bros. Theme, a classical remix of The Entertainer, and even a fast-paced version of the Mario Kart circuit music. Mario's Time Machine was released for the PC and SNES. Casting Mario as a time-traveling historian, Bowser has built a time-ulator to steal artifacts throughout human history, like Thomas Edison's light bulb and William Shakespeare's parchment, intending to build his own personal museum. To save the timeline, Mario has to travel to specific years, talk to historical figures, and answer trivia questions about their lives to return the items. The rarest Mario-related release was BS Super Mario Collection for the Satellaview, a satellite modem add-on for the Super Famicom in Japan. It was broadcast at specific times, and because it was a sound-linked title, players heard live-streamed audio alongside the game, including narration, voice acting, and special music. Since the experience depended on timed satellite broadcasts rather than a normal physical release, The original live version cannot be fully experienced today. Well, that was it, but if you want to jump into another video, check out our video on Zelda. Thanks.